Hello, everybody. This is David Nevins for Citybiz List, and my guest today is a good friend, and I'd like to welcome Bob Wallace to our program. Bob, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, David. Good to be here.
Bob, I besides the fact that you are indeed a good friend now of many years, I'm not even sure, honestly, how to introduce you to our audience. Entrepreneur, business leader, renowned author, leading citizen. But I guess, and you probably know where I'm headed, in more recent times, I think folks know your name as a candidate for mayor of Baltimore. You didn't win, but as an independent, I think you ran the most competitive race in Baltimore City history in that regard. So let's start with the most recent, Bob, and work our way back. You're not going to be the mayor, at least not this time around. But tell us about what you wanted to accomplish and what you hope happens in Baltimore City.
Well, David, as you know, I ran as a term I came up with called Mayorpreneur, right? And I was pushing the idea that the next mayor needs to run the city as an entrepreneur, will run his or her business. And even though I fell short and came in second place, I still believe that the principles of economic development and job creation is still essential and critical to the city's future and to its prosperity. And so I have just, re-energized my efforts in terms of creating jobs and helping to build the economy in Baltimore, not as a mayorpreneur, but as an entrepreneur. But hopefully will help make the city a better place.
So again, Bob, congratulations on that effort. I know when I want to make sure our audience understands when you say you came in second place, that's as an independent. That had never been done before. You beat another major party candidate. So
we made history, David. That. We made a lot of history.
No question.
And I also think we changed the game. I think we changed the political game in Baltimore City. So now people who are independent thinkers, now they know they can win these races. Even though I didn't win, we made so much progress that they'll realize that an independent person can be a leader in the city.
Yeah, I think you're right. Let's hope that accomplishment survives at least the next few elections.
I agree.
Bob, so you talked about job creation and economic development. I think job creation is something you have a fair amount of experience in. You've been a very successful businessman and business leader now for several decades,
yes,
not to date you, but for several decades, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And I think people know your business, those who do anyway, as the Bith Group or Bith Energy. Share with our audience what your collection of businesses is all about and what you do.
Sure, absolutely. Well, as you know, during the campaign, I was promising that we would create 100,000 jobs for Baltimore in my 4-year term if I had been mayor. So I am continuing to try to build that number. I may not get to 100,000, but we want to make a contribution. So in Bith Group Technologies, we are an IT services company. We've been in business about 28 years, David, almost 30 years, almost three decades. We provide solutions in healthcare systems and education systems. We provide solutions in biometrics. And I'm really excited to share that we have a new solution that we call Vaccine Check, which is part of our biometric group, which will allow companies and governments to provide a way to prove that people have gotten their vaccinations. And so we're really focusing on that now in COVID-19, and we hope that will help businesses and government to verify that people can verify that they have in fact gotten their vaccinations. That company is about 28 years old, David. About 12 years ago, I started Bith Energy. which is a separate company from BIF Group Technologies. BIF Energy focuses on designing and building renewable energy systems, energy data analytics, and training new jobs in the renewable energy space. So we have built about 50 megawatts of solar projects. We provide energy data analytics services to the state of Maryland, to universities and hospitals to help them use their energy data as a competitive tool or as a competitive advantage in terms of being competitive in their particular industry. And we've recently launched upon a path to raise a $250 million fund. I say $250 million, $250 million fund to fund our work to build 200 megawatts of community solar projects. Now, that's important, I think, because President Biden has already stated that we as a nation are going to fall short of about 1 million solar energy jobs. In other words, we got need for 1 million more jobs, but no people to fill the jobs. So we've embarked on a program, David, that we want to train 1,000 people in Baltimore City, to take on those renewable energy, especially solar energy jobs, because we want Baltimore to be in the renewable energy push that's going to explode. You probably heard about the UN study that was recently done that shows that global warming is out of control. And if we don't do something now and stop talking about it, but do something, our planet is going to be in trouble. I want Baltimore City to be right in the middle of that new opportunity path. And I'm doing my best through BIF Energy to help make that happen. And then our third company, David, is EntreTeach Learning Systems. We provide training and mentoring for entrepreneurs. When I was in graduate school at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth, I began my research there to look at why is it that people of color and women are not participating in the economic activity of our nation. This is back in the 80s. So I've been studying this data since 1982, almost 40 years. And so the idea with EntreTeach is to take that training, that education, that learning, and to accelerate the process where women and people of color can become successful entrepreneurs and thus build our economy, not only in Baltimore, but in the country. And so we're very excited about that as well.
No doubt, as you should be, Bob. Bob, I think you were about to mention, and maybe you briefly alluded to, you are launching a pilot program in terms of technology education to create technology jobs in Baltimore. Just tell our audience a little bit more about that, if you could.
Absolutely. So my premise hypothesis is that the jobs of the future will be technology-based jobs, either directly or indirectly. And so what we're trying to do is to prepare the next generation workforce that's based around technology. Now, the approach that we're taking on, David, is a little different, because what we know is we cannot go with the traditional training model of, in the classroom, instructor, that kind of thing. So we have moved into the area of using artificial intelligence and virtual reality to help accelerate the educational process and to expand its reach, because there's no way that we as a nation are going to fill that close to $1 million job gap that we have in solar energy, at least, right? Going the old way of teaching. So we are leveraging artificial intelligence and virtual reality to do that training. We've done some virtual reality training already for Exelon and some of their jobs. And so we know that this technology can be effective at training large numbers of young people and workers in the energy space, starting in Baltimore, but then throughout the country.
Bob, you might have seen this as well. The other evening, I was watching 60 Minutes, and they were interviewing the leadership of a robotics company. And, they're creating robots to do just about anything and everything.
Yes, sir.
And the immediate reaction was that, they're going to take jobs away from people. But the jobs, it seems, that they're going to take away are very low-skilled jobs, which goes back to your point. The only way they're going to take away those jobs is if we create more high-skill technology jobs. the folks that can build the robots and design the robots and so on and so forth. You would agree with that?
I would, David, and I would remind people to not be afraid of change and to not be afraid of emerging technologies. Yes, those technologies will replace certain jobs, but they will also create a new stream of jobs. And even though you may not be, to use your example, you may not be a robotic engineer, right? There is a supply chain that will be created from the robotics industry. And there'll be different skill levels that'll be necessary to support that supply chain that supports the evolution and revolution of those robotic solutions. And so I'm very excited about that. Now, our challenge as a city is that we have to position ourselves now as a city to take advantage of those emerging areas like robotics, David, like artificial intelligence, like virtual reality, like machine learning. We have to position our population now. And that's why when I ran for mayor, I was suggesting that the mayor needs to be a mayorpreneur. He or she needs to think like an entrepreneur and understand, how do I use the assets of Baltimore City as a whole, as an aggregate, and how do I create economic opportunity for Baltimore to be the leader in some of these industries. And I hope to, David, even though I'm not mayor, I still hope to play a role in helping to make Baltimore that leader.
Well, it certainly seems as if you are. And you just mentioned, Bob, not to be offering up a little bit of wisdom, suggesting that people not be afraid of change. I happen to totally agree with that. But a good segue to the fact that you from time to time do indeed offer up your wisdom to folks. As I mentioned in your introduction, you're also a fairly renowned author.
Thank you.
Who has just written, I believe it's your, correct me again if I'm wrong, your 8th book.
That's correct.
Let God Be God. Bob, tell us a little bit about the most recent book, but tell us about your work as an author and what you're trying to accomplish there.
So I started my authorship, if you will, when I was a grad student at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth. And as a typical engineer, I was writing to solve a problem that I had identified, and that was the lack of entrepreneurial activity and energy in the minority community and the women community, female community. And so I wanted to make a contribution in terms of how do we go about changing that. And so I began as a grad student, my grad research was on minority and women entrepreneurs. What are their success factors? What are their success traits? How do they overcome racism, sexism, classism, all the other isms, right? And still become successful. And I believe, David, in my research, I have uncovered that. And so from that research, even after I graduated from Tuck and went to IBM as the engineer, I continue to do my research, continue to interview hundreds of entrepreneurs to come up with the next level of thinking on how we accelerate the growth of this particular segment of our community. My latest book that will come out next month is called Let God Be God, using God's disruptive power to change your life and to change the world. I do not hide the fact that I happen to be a Christian business person. I have friends, I come from a Judeo-Christian background. And that's where I get my roots. I believe, and studies have shown, that over 3/4 of Americans, at least, believe in a God. You know, some people, some are Jewish, some are Christian, some are Muslim, some are Hindu, but most Americans believe there's a greater power. My point in writing Let God Be God is that I believe that there is power and resources and potential that many of us leave on the table because we have not developed our spiritual selves in a way to take advantage of that gift. And so in the book I talk about, and I do write it from a Christian perspective, but I have friends, as I said, who are Muslim and Jewish and Hindu, and they all believe in a greater power. They can read that book and they say, yeah, Bob, that makes sense to me too. Even though I'm not a Christian, that makes sense to me as a spiritual person. I can get it, Bob, and I'm with that. And so what I was trying to do, David, is to remind people there's a great deal of power that all of us have. We're leaving on the table because we have failed to develop ourselves spiritually, and thus we miss out on blessings. And so I wanted to make that point. My other books are about entrepreneurship, leadership, economic development, as you probably know, and I will continue to write in that area. But I do believe, David, that there is a level of writing or an area of writing that I focus on for spirituality, for business people, for business leaders. I do believe that's important, and I will continue to write on that subject.
Well, good for you. Good for you, Bob. Bob, share with our audience, you've shared so much. Tell our audience how they can get a hold of you or order your books or check out Bith Energy or Bith Group, et cetera, what they need to do.
Yes, sir. Well, they can start by going to www.robertwallace, my name, robertwallace.com. And from that launching site, they can get to Bith Group or Bith Energy or even EntreTeach. To go directly to Bith Group it's Bith Group, B as in Bravo, ITH group.com. That's one vector, and then Bith Energy, B as in Bravo, I as in India, T Tango, H Energy, BithEnergy.com will take you to our Bith Energy site. But David, if they want to start, they start with robertwallace.com, and that launch pad, and that will take them to the various companies.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. This has been a fascinating, brief discussion. I would urge our audience to find out more about you, to reach out, to become clients, to buy your books. You're a fascinating individual. You're a great citizen of Baltimore, and we wish you only the best going forward.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Our guest today has been Bob Wallace, and this has been David Nevins for Citybiz List. We hope you enjoyed this interview.